Diaries of a Madman. By What Must I Do? Chapter 204, Part 2 of 3. Her contract would come with more trouble than it's worth, and she'd probably only cook for me. Taya's friends are coming in. Can you help me pretend to be normal? I do my best every day, but you fight it as hard as you can, Kat sarcastically replied. That means you have experience, so it should be easy. Here they come. Remember their names for me, because I probably won't. You think of the two new maids as the blue one and the pink one, don't you? Don't let them know, but that Colt is probably forever going to be the red one. That filly is the scared white one. I'm really not good with pony names. Not gonna lie, I love your name. It makes things super easy for me. My lady, she managed to fit so much disappointment in 2 words. It was quite impressive, honestly. Don't worry, I have elementals for this kind of thing. Daria can remind me if it's ever important. I was spared from having to further explain myself by the entrance of Taya and her friends. Roxy flopped off Kat's shoulder and started running up to my filly. As expected, the white filly squealed and tried jumping back outside, but just rammed face first into Watcher instead. I'm not that scary, am I? I ask. I think she was running from Roxy, for some reason, Taya said as she pet the cockatrice. There's no reason foals should ever fear you, mother. That made me blink, but I figured she probably didn't want to call me mommy in front of her friends. Although one of them was busy staring at me in awe while the other was rubbing her nose, so it's possible neither was paying attention. So, are these the students you're tutoring? Yes, this is Thundercharge and Lila Love. Those names might actually be distinctive enough to remember. Wow. This is my mother, Lady Navarone, and our vassal, Katrina. There was a small pause in her pronunciation of Kat's name, amusingly enough. And this is my pet cockatrice, Roxy. You have a cat named Kat? Thunder asked. And a cockatrice called Roxy, Lila said, eyes wide. Then she looked up at me and bowed. My lady, this house has such a wonderful grasp of Equestria's perfect naming system. My first reaction was to get angry about that for obvious reasons, but then I realized that she might be right. I couldn't really get angry with Equestria's shitty punna names when I had a cat named Kat, a spider named Spider, elementals that had nothing but water puns for names, and many more besides. So instead of getting angry at them, I resolved to forever forget their names. This manor is actually called Stormview Estate, Kat said. It faces the cliffside where the storms roll in from Cloudsdale. Spike made dragonfire cookies, if you're interested, I said. For some reason, her 2 friends seemed surprised by that. He didn't put gems in them this time, did he? Taya asked. I asked him to make them so ponies could eat them, but I haven't actually tested them yet. They were tested thoroughly before arriving from the kitchen, Kat said. My ladies may be immune to poison, but all the same. So what are dragonfire cookies? The white one slowly asked. Wait, Taya's immune to poison, the red one butted in. How? Oh, I just stopped being a pony, Taya replied with a shrug. Anyway, that's a lot less interesting than cookies without gems in them. With that, the 2 fillies rushed to the table. The colt seemed to have a lot more questions, though he followed them all the same. To answer the first question, these are cookies magically baked with dragon fire, I said, holding one up. When I broke it in half, it made a loud cracking noise. They're extremely brittle, but won't crumble apart when you bite into them. If you add a little warm tea, they practically melt in your mouth. Essentially, they were large, super crispy chocolate chip cookies. I didn't know dragons baked cookies, the filly said, holding one of the cookies up and staring at it in wonder. You'll find a lot of things in this house you won't find anywhere else in Equestria, Kat said. I'm sure you hear the piano music now. It's a song I've never heard before, the white one said. With that, she finally bit into the cookies. Her eyes widened even more. So if you're not a pony, what are you? The red one finally asked, looking Taya over. I mean, you look a lot like a pony. Your hair and eyes changed, but I thought that was just magic. Should I answer that? Taya asked, looking up to me. I haven't really explained it to anyone yet. It's a little late to be asking that question, Watcher said, using magic to snag a single cookie for himself. You can either use magic to erase his memory or tell him. Staying quiet's no longer an option. Watcher, don't be ominous and spooky in front of kids, I said. Obviously you should tell them, Taya. I mean, spring starts tomorrow, doesn't it? Our hair will be changing to match. If it comes with flowers, we'll have to explain it. Besides, it's not like it's a problem for anyone. Just like he said, you still look like a pony. Wait, are you a changeling? The colt asked, his eyes widening. No, I'm a tree sister, Taya said. It's a creature that's been infused with the power of a plant. How did that happen? The filly asked. It was a little muffled, since her mouth was stuffed full of cookies. I used a magic potion I asked our zebra shaman to brew. I got the recipe in a pocket dimension guarded by an ancient goddess's menacing labyrinth. As I thought, these cookies really are amazing when they don't have gems in them. That was your own fault for sneaking his cookies, I said. Besides, it probably tasted good before blood was all you could taste. Anyway, her transformation isn't really something you should be concerned about. Oh, that does remind me, though. Taya, if any of the mages at the tower ask to experiment on you, tell them I'll allow it on the condition I can experiment on them first. So, you're part plant? The red one asked. Yep, Taya said with a nod. That part hurt a lot, but not for long. Though technically, I'm still in the early stages of the overall transformation. My mother is much further along, as you can see. I waved my tail at them, making both of her friends blink in surprise. I thought you had a dragon tail, the red one shouted. I did. Taya may have told you that I was away for a while. Let's just say my body was gestating. You probably noticed my wings, too. I spread my new magical wings so they could get a better look. I'm becoming less animal-like and more fey-like. It's possible Taya's body will eventually go through similar changes, but the rate at which it happens can be unpredictable. Given that it relies on getting horribly injured or dying. So why did you do it? The white one asked, looking at my filly. Is being a tree sister why you're so powerful? No, my strength was because of a bargain with a demon, Taya said. I don't really think that deal was worth it, though. But I became a tree sister because I wanted to. So far, it's totally been worth it. Wait, you made a deal with a demon, the colt shouted. You're quite excitable, I see, I said with a smile. I mean, who hasn't made a bargain or two with demons? Though Taya's demon was a hell of a lot more evil than the ones I worked with. And infinitely more powerful. Taya, were you involved in the attack on the tower? The white one asked. That was before I became a student, but I heard the demons captured a lot of researchers and students. No, I wasn't allowed to help, Taya said, turning a pointed gaze toward me. Apparently I wasn't strong enough and would have gotten in the way. The one who set that standard was Celestia, not me, I said. We didn't even take shining armor in with us. Taya, I don't mind if you talk about being a tree sister, but keep quiet about that deal. Lame, she muttered, rolling her eyes. Anyway, being a tree sister is great. I don't feel hunger the same way anymore, since I get most of my energy from the sun. I still have to eat, but not nearly as much. All of my nature-oriented spells have gotten stronger, not that I ever have a use for most of them. Once spring rolls around, I won't have to sleep at all until fall comes in. That'll be the best part. That sounds awesome, the colt said. Why don't more ponies do this? For the same reason you had no idea what a tree sister was until today, Kot said. Lady Navarone and I are both very well traveled, but the two of us have only met a single other tree sister aside from Taya. We also met a mushroom sister, Taya said. She looked really weird. There are also downsides, I said. But it's never good to reveal one's weaknesses, so you'll have to figure those out on your own. I bet you're extra flammable, hey, the white one asked. I narrowed my eyes at her before looking at Watcher. You know what to do. He also narrowed his eyes at the filly, who was starting to sweat bullets. While still glaring at her, he used magic to summon a notebook, wrote something in it, then made it disappear. It will be done, my lady, he finally replied. With that, both of us stopped glaring at her. Part of that was because it looked like she was about to faint. Didn't you just tell him not to be ominous and spooky in front of kids? Kot asked. Yeah, but we were clearly joking. I mean, Taya obviously got it. Though now that I looked at the colt, he also seemed pretty nervous. Wow! You two are surprisingly normal, hey. I heard some nobles keep ponies like him around to make other ponies disappear, the colt whispered. Oh! I thought that was something only the princess did. Watcher, apologize for scaring her. For some reason, I heard Kot lightly groan behind me. It's hard to keep up my gruff old man act if you make me apologize to an adorable filly, he said with a sigh. I'm sorry for obeying my lady's order to scare you. I should have been the responsible adult and ignored it. It's good that you recognize what you did wrong, I said with a nod. Kot was fidgeting more and more, so I decided it was best to wrap this up. Taya, while you're inside, there's something I need assistance with. I'm in the process of interviewing two of the applicants Doppel found. One is in the kitchen making something and the other is upstairs working on a different project. I'd like your opinion on both of them. Why would you want my opinion? Because you're my filly, obviously. Why would I hire maids without asking you about them first? Neither should take very long, so you can start practicing again soon. I can definitely help, she replied with a nod. But it's getting pretty late. I was thinking we'd call it quits on practice for the night. It's not really that late, though, the colt said. It is for a tree sister, Taya said. Once spring rolls around, I'll be happy to practice all night long. Until then, I don't want to stay up too late. That's the healthy way, I said, reaching over to bop my filly. Her friends seemed a little surprised by that, but neither said anything. Daria, what's Doppel's status? She's looking more and more adorable every moment, Daria replied. But the ensemble isn't complete. Would you like her to come down when it is? No, we'll go up to her. I'm sure Taya doesn't want her friends to see a double of her, especially one that's all dressed up. What's the status of our chefs? The test dish will be out in moments. Celestia's dish will take another 5 or so. The mare in the kitchen should be done soon, I said. I'd like to leave tasting her dish up to the ponies, since that's all she's had experience cooking for. If she can cook so that a pony can enjoy it, she can learn to cook for the rest of us. Is she okay with cooking meat? Watcher asked. She said she had no opinion on the matter, so probably. If not, we still have Kot, Gilda, and Spike who can cook it. I've never had meat before, the colt whispered, looking down. It tastes awful, at least for ponies, Taya said with a shiver. And it's not good for ponies, either, I added. So you're better off as you are, trust me. I'm going to check on the status of the maid upstairs. Taya, I'll call for you when it's time for you to come up. I'll be here, she replied with a smile. Kot probably didn't want to play babysitter and leaving an assassin in charge of someone else's kids seemed unwise. If the kids knew what kind of monster she was, they would probably be running away screaming. Though they'd probably also run from Watcher if they knew about his past. Still, he was just helping them practice. The filly would probably get over her terror quickly, right? With those thoughts, I pulled my kitty along with me. When Cod and I got to the main room, Spider stopped playing and looked over to us. Should I hide, my lady? I don't want to scare your guests. No, you're free to keep playing, I said. Anyone who attacks someone playing a piano has no right to be our guest. Besides, Watcher is keeping an eye on them. He won't let anyone hurt you. Yes, my lady. With that, most of his legs went back to playing. It was nothing close to what Flo could manage with all of her tendrils, but he was definitely much better than most ponies could ever dream of becoming. However, every note was successfully muted by Daria, so all of that was purely conjecture. Cot, do you think we should introduce them preemptively? Taya briefed them, supposedly. Besides, I've ensured that Spider can defend himself. Spider was in his own world, not paying us any mind. I continued past him, up to the stairs. It was tempting to fly to the top, but I'd still have to wait for Cot. Instead, we both made the long walk to the 4th floor together. They're not actually finished, are they? Cot whispered when we started walking to Taya's room. I couldn't even pretend to be normal for 5 minutes. Cot, I whispered back. I'm a failure of a noble. And a failure of a mother, too, she helpfully added, patting me on the shoulder. That coma didn't really help much, hey. Hey, I don't think I embarrassed her. She seemed happy when I left. You used Watcher to threaten them, she hissed. It's possible she was just happy that you were leaving at all. Thankfully, we were right in front of Taya's door, so I didn't have to reply to that. Instead, I let myself in like I owned the place. Inside, Evening Mist, also known as the Blue One, was dolling up a petulant-looking Taya. What's wrong, Doppel? I ask. I thought you enjoyed pretty parties. I'm pretending to be Taya, she said, dropping her pout instantly and falling into a surprisingly cute smile. I mean, have you ever seen her look as adorable as this? Cot, close the door, I said. She did so without a word. Doppel, have you ever wondered how I decided which was the real Taya when we first met? The fact that you're asking after telling Cot to close the door means it's going to be really disappointing, isn't it? Doppel asked. You had more life in your eyes than Taya. A bigger spark, more drive. Although a part of that may have just been hunger. Either way, it's natural that someone with that kind of presence can make themselves look better. Another part of it is natural charisma, which is something you can't turn off. You really shouldn't flirt with someone who looks like your daughter, you know, Doppel said with a large blush. How is that flirting? I ask. Anyway, how close are you to finishing, Miss Mist? You can call me Evie, my lady. Or Misty, if you'd prefer. Do we already have a Misty? Daria, are any of the elementals named that? No, but there is a Mist, she replied. If you've already forgotten her name, giving this maid a nickname you'll also forget shouldn't hurt. Probably. Evie it is, then. My fake filly is certainly turning out to be adorable, but, why Gothic Lolita? Our previous lord traded in a human commodity called manga. I learned from those that this was a popular style where you're from, my lady. I thought this would remind you of home. Rarity strikes again. I see. Yeah, I see that somebody needs murdering. So, Sunset Breeze is your sister. Yep. We're twins. Which, let me tell you, is not good for the mother. That many horns get all kinds of places. Was your last lord the only one you've worked for? Cod asked. He's the only one my sister and I have worked with on our own contract, she replied. Before then, we were included with our parents when they applied. Then one day our father got taken by the fun police. Breezy wouldn't tell me what happened to mommy, but I bet the fun police got her, too. They get all kinds of ponies, after all. She went silent for a moment, the smile on her face quivering slightly. But I'll be happy enough for my sister and I. They won't get us. With that, her smile returned to its normal width. I'm gonna make this filly so cute, my lady. She seems interesting, Kot said, casually locking arms with me. Equestria's fun police sure did a number to the ponies, hey. Breezy said we shouldn't talk about the fun police, but, that you should be okay, the blue one said, turning to me. She said the fun police worked for you, right? That means we're safe if we work here, right? You won't need to worry about them if you work for me, I said. But the fun police definitely do not work for me. Of course not, my lady. With that, she returned to her task. At the moment, Doppel was wearing a red and dark purple frilly and fluffy dress. Her white hair was set up in pigtails, which was apparently the signature style for Gothic Lolita. Currently, Evie was working on Doppel's makeup. That involved lipstick and some stuff around the eyes. There were a number of bows lined up, so I assumed they'd be attached at some point. So, is it comfortable? I ask. I wouldn't want to wear this in summer, but it might be suitable for fall or winter, Doppel said. The dress is a little heavy, but not so much that it's a problem. Apparently there's also a version that includes lingerie, but I told her not to worry about that for Taya. And there will be shoes, but not heels. Moving around should prove no issue. I definitely think you look cute, and not just because you're you. I'm planning on getting Taya's opinion when it's finished. She's probably in the middle of rating your sister's work now. Didn't you wait to try my sister's cooking? Evie asked. No, I got scared off by my filly's friends, I said. It's for the best that I stay away from normal children. My lady. I promise I won't judge your habits. I don't know what habits you think I might have, but there's probably a misunderstanding somewhere in there. Anyway, I'll leave you to it for now. Daria will let me know when you're ready. Doppel was currently being a doll and the maid was focusing on her task, so neither bowed as we left. I didn't want to risk scaring Taya's friends again, so I returned to my room. As soon as the door was shut behind us, Kot sighed. My lady, is hiding away up here really a better choice than getting to know your filly's friends? Maybe the coma taught me to recognize my limits, I replied. Besides, I believe the mystery mare is cooking some manner of meat. It's probably better that I eat that away from the kids. I suppose it's unfair for me to complain about your inability to be normal, even for a few minutes, Kot said. But the situation definitely needs to be rectified. Even if by some miracle you unfortunately become my lord instead of my lady, you'll still need to be able to pretend to be normal. Unfortunately. I slowly replied. Her eyes widened when she realized what she said. Kot, do you prefer my female body? Of course, I want you to be happy. But you seem to think me becoming male again is unfortunate, do you not? Why is that, Kot? She didn't reply and just looked away, so I leaned in very close to stare at her even more intently. It was making her blush, oddly enough. Hey, Kot? Why would that be unfortunate? Your lady is asking you a question, isn't she? Aren't you going to obey her by providing an answer? You. I don't think the answer would, please you, my lady. I don't recall asking to be coddled. I recall asking a question. A question you are going to answer, aren't you? Seeing you look uncomfortable excites me, my lady, she finally whispered, still not meeting my gaze. And you never look as uncomfortable as you do when I'm dolling you up to the best of my ability, so. Wow, look at that. My hands ended up around her throat all on their own. Did I finally get enough of a soul to learn teleportation? My least favorite vassal is attempting to say something, but can't because my magic hands are still doing their thing. I would stop them, but I don't know if I'll ever be able to do magic again. Letting things run their course seems prudent. So should we stop her? Daria asked in my head. It seems like she's trying to pretend her arms are moving on their own. I'm not sure Kot has learned her lesson yet, but it might be for the best, Flo replied. Let's hit the emergency brakes. Just like that, any possibilities of me learning teleportation dried up as my brain leeches pressed the no fun allowed button. Still, maybe it wasn't all bad. So, have you learned any lessons? I ask. Kot's throat was probably too damaged to reply, but Cascade would fix it up quickly. The damage didn't stop her from nodding, at least. I think the coma made me more violent. That was the second time I've throttled you since I got out. Or maybe you're just more annoying now. It was clearly my fault, my lady, Kot hoarsely replied. Please, punish me more. Wow, creepy. It's tempting to give her some vibrating panties, but that's probably not the best idea at the moment. No, attempted murder is enough for now, I said. Actually, it might have been a little too much. Thank you for stopping me. But get your shit together. I'm so sick of dealing with this. Wait, is that why you seduced me in bed that night? My lady, your horrified expression was like ambrosia. Making you scream in terrified pleasure was orgasmic for me. I know you hate being in this body, which only makes it all the better for me. I'm regretting keeping her around more and more. You're not allowed to do anything to stop me from turning back. No destroying the artifact I need, no hiding documents on how to find it, nothing to obscure it at all. Of course, my lady. But I hope I can enjoy myself plenty until it happens. This fucking bitch. Right as my hands were starting to display more signs of teleportation magic, the door opened and in walked the mystery mare with a plate full of mystery meat. The vegetables on the side were mushrooms and onions. The meat was cut like a steak, but there's no telling what animal it was from. Am I interrupting something? Celestia asked with a sweet smile. She found an apron somewhere that read "Kiss the Chef." My lady was about to punish me for speaking out of turn, Kot said with a sensual smile in my direction. I was hoping for another spanking this time. Yes, her hands are quite enjoyable, Celestia said, nodding. Anywho, your meal is ready, my lady. This is a little much for a test meal, but I'll happily put your meat in my mouth, I replied. What did you think of your competition? That mare is 6,000 years too early to compete against me, Celestia proudly replied, lifting a hoof to her chest. With that, she floated the plate over to my desk, then magicked in a fork and knife. Go on, Navi. Put my juicy meat inside your mouth. I feel like I'm watching something indecent, Kot whispered, but I ignored her and took a seat at my desk. Celestia used magic to push me in and then summoned some kind of juice for me. Come on, now you're just showing off. If you have time to feel jealous over my service skills, perhaps you should spend that time becoming better, Celestia smugly said. Maybe then you wouldn't get punished. They continued bickering and fighting for my attention. Unfortunately for them, said attention was now focused solely on the steak. Sure enough, it tasted amazing. That was bad news, because it meant Celestia's value as a wife was shooting higher and higher. This is surprisingly good, I said. That cut their argument off immediately, of course. Celestia was left smiling while Kot was stuck pouting. But pouting suits catgirls better than smiling anyway, so it was a win-win for me. Though I do have to ask. What kind of meat is this? It's not one I recognize off the top of my head. Pork, Celestia replied. The griffins breed deer for most of their meat. Ponies use pigs for most of ours. Though of course, most ponies don't know that such industries exist. Oh great, now I'm definitely going to hell. Although I'm pretty sure the bacon I used to eat counts, even if my parents said it didn't. Oh well, too late now. It's nice and juicy. I guess you pass. Can I get a numerical score, my lady? She sweetly and not so humbly asked. I give it a 93 out of 100. It's actually slightly shocking that you know how to cook meat so well. I understand that you may have gone through wife training and that it may have involved cooking, but did it involve cooking meat? I may have also had some pointers from Flo and Daria. If I'm being honest, those courses were over 1500 years ago, though I took them every 100 years or so before then. As it happened, Luna is the only one who ever got to put those skills to use, not that she ever spent much time developing them to begin with. As I'm sure you discovered, unfortunate things happen to those who catch her eye. She bragged to me about how she did something great for mares everywhere by creating restraining orders. Ah, yes, that time she tried explaining to me that having someone murdered and shackled into an undead body was less of a problem than breaking the restraining order. The only reason she resorted to such methods is because I forbade her quite strictly from breaking said restraining order. She decided murdering that poor soul was better than disobeying me. And yet Oldalscha didn't deign to warn me. At least Chrysalis dropped hints for me. Oldalscha didn't want Luna to fall in love with you, but she also didn't want you to run away, Celestia said. And obviously telling you all of that would have made you run for the hills, not that it would have done you any good. Refusing to bare your fangs and obeying us was probably the safest choice you could have made, not that it ended up being all that safe of a choice in the end. Of course, when Luna went too far, Oldalscha quickly put her in her place. That's true, I said. Anyway, now that you've passed your test, would you like to tell me what the test was for? My confusion didn't stop me from eating, of course. After all, it was delicious. I believe it was for the right to cook you dinner tonight, she said, poking at her chin with a hoof. You obviously didn't want me around, so I figured I had to prove my worth. Apparently I passed. I hope this means I can cook you dinner every now and then. Shit, it's too late to fail her now. Although at this point, I feel like I'm just playing the mouse to her cat based on our past relationship. As long as I'm wary of not letting my guard down. I don't see any problem with that, I finally said, though I couldn't help but follow it with a sigh. Kot's pout intensified. Just please don't be annoying about it. I do my best to leave the annoyances outside. Then why is she still here? Celestia asked, looking at Kot. Because if I kicked her out, she would just stalk me. She knows at this point that kidnapping me for long would be impossible, since the elementals would always be able to find me. Plus, as long as my eyes were open, a unicorn would be able to teleport me out. That makes stalking her only option. That's not completely true, Kot said, her pout melting away into a predator's grin. I would definitely stalk you, but I certainly wouldn't leave it at just stalking. And thus, the reason she's still here, I said. As long as she's my vassal, I can safely order her to stop bothering me. But if I kick her out, she won't have to pretend to care about what I say anymore. I see, Celestia said, eyes wide. That human pull of yours works differently on everyone, doesn't it? I think it just reacts poorly to instabilities, I replied. Luna was similarly crazy, but has recently started getting her excrement together. You know, marginally. Unlike a certain someone, who probably just lost all rights to helping me get dressed. Kot suddenly shivered before staring at me in fear. I happily ignored her in favor of the steak, though it was rapidly disappearing. No, if that was the case, Moonbeam wouldn't have let you out of her grasp, Celestia said. She has a lot more instabilities, she's just doing her absolute best to hide them around you. She's also completely Fae instead of just part Fae, so it's affecting her differently anyway, I said. Fae. I take that to mean a being who is completely magical in nature? Beings like changelings and, say, tree sisters. Indeed. I don't know if it really counts with something like me, though. I do feel more flighty than I used to when I first got here, but that might just be all the trauma. I certainly do look pretty Fae now, though. I'm pretty sure it'll be worse if I ever die and have to revive. At that point, I probably won't have to worry about the human pull thing anymore. I won't be human enough for it to matter. Do we need to worry about countering it, then? Cod asked. I don't really see the harm in it, myself. I'm quite happy serving my precious Navi. Apparently that statement warranted hugging me from behind. Since I was nice, I used that opportunity to feed her the last bite of the lovely steak. Or at least, I attempted to. As soon as Cod tried to bite down on it, the meat teleported back onto my plate. Navi, don't tell me you're going to give away the meal I've made for you, Celestia said with an uncomfortably intense look on her face. Okay, I definitely won't tell you, I said. Apparently sharing wasn't allowed, so I ate the last bite myself instead. Cod might have moped about it if she wasn't still latched around me. As it was, she seemed content to ignore Celestia's barbs. I can't bring the humans forward in time without fixing the issue with the pull. That would throw the world out of balance. It won't be as bad now that we're wary, but we've already seen what kind of damage just one human can do. And we obviously can't just leave the humans alone in their own little corner of the world, because they'll definitely just do what humans always do. It'll turn into us versus them, war will break out, and all the suffering I went through will have been for nothing. Countering something like that for one human might be feasible, but all of them might be difficult, Celestia said. Though truth be told, just being aware of it can be enough to stop oneself from slipping too far into it. But spreading awareness across the entire world is still asking a little much. Are you truly sure that allowing time colonists is wise? I hate to sound heartless, but the humans died an awfully long time ago. Trying to resurrect an extinct race might cause irreparable damage to this world, Nav. The fact that we're having to do so much planning just to counteract a single part of their existence, this terrifying pull of theirs, is proof of that. Then we have to take countermeasures for their technology. And then their insidiousness. Then their spite. I have no desire to watch my kingdom burn up in flames and be bathed in poison. If anything, we should commemorate their existence as the great architects who recreated all life on this planet, and use the tale of their downfall to remind ourselves that even the mightiest can fall when poisoned by discord. I'd probably be cool with that if we didn't have to deal with Jonathan, I replied with a shrug. But I don't think he'll settle for that, and getting rid of him would be an absolute nightmare. The idea of a time colony is really interesting, though. And it reminds me of something I was considering in my coma. There were a whole bunch of periods when humans killed other humans in massive quantities. I'm pretty sure the Mongol Empire killed something like 10% of the population of the entire planet. What if, instead of letting those random peasants get murdered, we kidnap them instead? With all the superstitions and whatnot in my world, if someone who looks like me appears before an invasion with a few Pegasi in tow, I'd probably be called an angel or something and they'd follow me with no questions asked. Technology in our world didn't start advancing really quickly until 100 or so years before I disappeared. Before then, most of the world was on par with Griffiths. The people we'd rescue would still be humans, of course, but they'd be grateful. After I have a stable population of grateful time refugees in my colony, I can bring over the people I promised to help. By then, there would be enough docile, loyal humans that a few bad eggs shouldn't be able to accomplish much. Look at what a single bad egg did to Equestria, Cot whispered in my ear. Celestia's ears flinched, but she didn't say anything. How long do you intend to hang on to me? I asked. She wasn't uncomfortable, but having that creep near me made my skin crawl. As long as my lady allows it, of course, she said, snuggling me tighter. It's time, Daria said in my head. Doppel is ready for your perusal. Apparently Doppel is ready for me to look at, I said. The other potential maid dressed her up all cute-like. So I heard, Celestia replied. The mayor in the kitchen thought it was a little odd you used a changeling shaped as your daughter instead of your actual daughter. A changeling shaped like my daughter is better than a mirror, I said. I want to ask for Taya's opinion on it too, even if she probably doesn't care. Shall I summon Taya and her friends? Cod asked. I don't know if Taya wants her friends to see her dressed like that. Otherwise, I'd just have Doppel come downstairs. One moment, let me ask. Flo, ask if Taya wants her friends to see Doppel dressed up. She absolutely doesn't, Flo replied. I'll explain the situation to her as Kot heads downstairs. The other maid finished what she was cooking and Taya's sharing it with her friends now. All three approve, of course. Make sure she comes up here even if she doesn't care. It won't take long. Kot, go get Taya. Just her. I won't pull her from her friends for long, of course. Wait, what? Celestia said. I thought you said you were going to go ask Taya. I never mentioned going anywhere. I just used Flo. Kot, why are you still hugging me? I gave you an order. Right, of course. She quickly released me. Sorry, I was too engrossed in your scent. If you actually want me to like you, you're doing a terrible job, I said. Go get Taya. At once, my lady. With that, she finally left, closing the door behind her. If you're having that much trouble with her, I can find you several attendants who definitely won't just be spies, Celestia said. I've had some unpleasant subjects before, but there weren't many I wanted to strangle. That's because ponies don't have fingers, I replied. Of course it wouldn't come as natural to you. You threw me against a wall once just because I followed the orders I was given. That just proves how exceptional you are, doesn't it? Now, shall we go see this faux daughter of yours? Are you here to cook or are you here to hang out? I can't do both. Whatever. Let's go. The two of us walked out of my room and over to my fillies. The door was closed, so I rudely barged in. At the moment, it was just the maid and Doppel, but Taya teleported to us seconds after we walked in. Who wants to walk upstairs? Taya scoffed. If I have to walk up and down instead of getting to fly, I don't see why you should get to teleport, I replied. But whatever. What do you think of your new look? With that, we all turned our judgmental eyes toward Doppel. Her purple fur went pretty well with the white hair and red and purple dress. Her mane was done up as drill pigtails. All the ruffles and bows covering the dress were a little over the top, but that was normal for the style she was going for. As someone who was forced into a similarly gothic Lolita outfit once, I knew it was surprisingly comfy. I also knew that I looked so cute that it was uncomfortable. The fake Taya standing before me was definitely cute, but not in an uncomfortable way. I actually kinda like it, Taya said. If I have to wear a dress, I think dark colors would suit me best. And the ruffles would help hide the pudge you're so ashamed of. All the lace might get a little hot, though. And I don't really like makeup, but just that much is fine. The hairstyle is a little over the top, but I guess that's a noble thing, so that makes it okay. Even if it took ages to get everything done, Doppel replied, pouting a little. How are you gonna make it up to me, mommy? Don't you even start, missy, I replied. If I was closer, I might have even thumped her on the nose. So what do you think, mommy? My real filly asked. I think it's cute, but you might risk attracting anime nerds if anyone sees you like this. Especially since you're my daughter. Well, that's what combat magic is for, Taya replied with a shrug. By the way, who's that? She was staring at Celestia, but then sniffed and narrowed her eyes. Wait, never mind. Flo told me. Why are you, like that? To blend in, of course, Celestia replied. I couldn't do anything about the voice, though. It's distinctive, but most people have never heard your voice anyway, I said. What do you think of the ensemble, Sunny? I think referring to your maid as an ensemble is a little insulting, for one, Celestia said. Second, I deem it acceptable for the gala. Not that it means much, since I never intend to go to another gala, I said. But it's good to have your, what's wrong? For some reason, Celestia's entire face just went completely emotionless. Actually, it's for the best. I don't know. It's good to have your approval. I deem it a pass. The blue one, Evening Mist, hoof pumped. Taya, what did you think of the food? It's worth eating at least once a day for a while, she confidently replied. Maybe as many as 3 times, if I was pushing it. So does this mean we're hired? Evening Mist sweetly asked. Sure does. Doppel, you're welcome to take it away from here. Well, I guess after you get changed. With that, she turned herself into a snake, slithered out of the clothes, and flashed right back into a changeling. Not exactly what I meant by changing, but I guess that also works. We're finally safe from the fun police, the crazy mare shouted in glee. They, fun police? Celestia said, tilting her head. The ponies who took father away when he stopped smiling, the blue one sagely said. My silly sister thinks the guards took him away for learning something he wasn't supposed to know, but that's ridiculous. He stopped smiling so the fun police got him. But my new lady works super close with the ruler of the fun police, so that means we're safe now. I don't have to smile now, even when I feel like crying. Which apparently meant right now, because she actually was tearing up. Oddly enough, Celestia was looking even more gloomy now. So this is what old Ulscha wrought, Nulscha whispered, her ears sagging low. Fun police. This poor mare. Yep, you're safe now, I replied to the maid while patting Celestia on the head. I think the fun police aren't going to be bothering anyone anymore, in fact. Luckily, that cheered both of them up. So. I have another question, Taya said. What's with the box? Did someone drop off more dresses? With that, she used magic to tear the box open, revealing her runic armor. Oh. This is a gift from Jack, I said. I was going to tell you about it after your friends left, but well, here you are. It's basically a smaller version of the armor Luna has. It becomes much stronger when powered with a blood gem, but we can play with it later. You probably shouldn't leave your friends for too long. The armor is cooler, though. You have people who enjoy spending time with you, Taya, I said. You shouldn't spurn that. It's a valuable thing. I mean, do you want to turn into some 6,000-year-old hag who lives vicariously through her students to the point of making them send all the minute details of their lives spelled out in ridiculous letters? That actually didn't seem to depress Celestia any further, but it's possible she was already past her breaking point. No, that sounds like an existence worse than hell itself, Taya sarcastically replied, staring directly at Celestia. With her snarky statement delivered, my daughter's loving eyes turned back to me. I guess I'll head back downstairs. My friends seem to want to talk more with the great hero of Equestria, Mommy. Are you gonna join us? I'm relatively confident I can pretend to be normal for at least a few minutes. Sonny, I'm more partial to arsenic than polonium, so keep that in mind if you plan to poison me tonight. You couldn't even be normal for 2 sentences. Celestia said. Ugh. And what was that about not going to the gala? You'll be there if I have to have you dragged in by demons. It would be considerably less dramatic to just have me dragged in by Flo, for real, I said. After all, she's the only one capable of stopping me from ordering Luna to teleport me away. You're just afraid of having to pick a date, aren't you? Taya asked. Would it be crass to call dibs? Celestia asked. I mean, Luna got away with it a few years ago. I wouldn't mind enjoying myself for once. You're assuming Flo would side with you, I replied, sticking my tongue out at her. Besides, the gala is just for showing off, not for romance. I might be okay with escorting someone, but I feel like calling it a date would spread rumors far and wide. Darn, you're learning, Celestia said, looking away. And that's worth a darn, hey? Let me guess, you were going to get rumors started about us being a thing, then try to use public pressure to force the issue. I had no such intentions. However, I certainly did think such a thing might occur, and I deemed it an acceptable risk. An acceptable risk you hoped I wouldn't notice. Is it so wrong to wish for your hand, my lovely lady? It can be, when you're creepily devious about it. Don't be a Luna. Rumors are nowhere near the level of giving everyone dreams, Celestia shot back. Fine, then don't be a fleur. That made her ears flinch. Anyway, I'm looking forward to dinner. Taya, shall we? Since my favorite pony daughter knows me so well, we instantly teleported away before Celestia could reply. I thought teleportation was supposed to be hard, the red one whispered. That was just blinking, Taya said. It costs barely anything. It's also way easier, once you get used to it. And it can be great for emergency situations, Watcher added. A unicorn can blink further than they can teleport, but it's not as fast because each jump is much shorter. I blink all the time, but it's never taken me anywhere, the white one said. What's special about magical blinking? It can only be done in two ways, Watcher said. The first is by memorizing both your starting location and your ending location. Normal teleportation doesn't require starting coordinates, but if you add them to the formula, it'll greatly shorten the distance you can travel, but it reduces the cost even more. The second way requires line of sight. If you can see where you want to blink, you can do so to within a certain distance. That distance increases based on how powerful you are and how experienced you are with the magic. I'm not sure if the cap is actually the horizon or not, but that's the legend. Doesn't adding more to the formula make it harder than normal teleportation? The white one asked. That doesn't apply to every spell, Taya said. When it comes to blinking, once you're an expert, you can jump from room to room in an instant with basically no effort, as long as you're very familiar with both rooms. But blinking via line of sight will take a little longer, since you usually aren't as familiar with your destination, Watcher added. Though it's still fast enough to use in combat. Learning it would make you considerably more formidable. I found that out the hard way, the red one muttered. Taya smirked. Though I guess I can't really feel bad for losing to someone who can even beat the professors. Wait, what? I said, butting in. Do the teachers participate in the fights, too? They won't let me practice against students anymore, Taya replied, rolling her eyes. I mean, I only traumatized 2 or 3. It's not like I win all the bouts against the professors, though. Dueling in class is different than a real fight, so my opponents actually stand a chance. Is Taya really that strong? The red one asked, looking up at me. I know she's become a legend at the tower already, but I heard some of the professors whispering about how she knew all kinds of weird ancient magic. You're looking at the wrong person, I said. I know Taya's strong and I've seen her do a ton of impressive things, but I don't really have a baseline comparison when it comes to magic. Watcher, where would Taya stand in the tower's hierarchy when it comes to combat? Near the pinnacle, he immediately replied. In terms of raw magical strength, she's within the top 25. In terms of sheer combat potential, she's easily within the top 10. But there's a lot more to magic than combat. Taya knows a good amount of healing and enough other types of magic to get by, but she's very specialized toward fighting. Her cutie mark is proof of that. For civilians, I recommend a more well-rounded education. I'm gonna be a knight, the red one said. That means I'm going all in on the combat magic. Knights aren't there to fight enemies, they're there to protect people, I said. Part of protecting people is being able to fight, but it also involves being able to heal and put up barriers. Think about Prince Shining Armor. His specialty is defense magic and he made it all the way to the top. Of course, part of that was nepotism, but that's just how the world works. My lady is mostly right, Watcher said with a nod. In combat operations, knights usually work in squads that have members specialized for individual roles. However, there will be times when the other knights you're working with aren't unicorns at all and you need to be prepared for any type of situation. Besides, there are a variety of spells from other schools that can come in handy in combat. Telekinesis is the most obvious. You can use that to throw ponies around or use weapons. And illusions can make great distractions, I said. Watcher, what was that fog spell you used in the training exercise? You mean when we annihilated the day guards? He smugly asked. That was a Grandmaster level weather control spell, the only one my squad happens to know. We also added a few touches of our own to make it truly unique, something full of nightmares. But I made sure you wouldn't run into those when you had to go through it, and that's not really the kind of spell that's viable in individual combat. But it's certainly great for setting the tone of the battlefield and can allow you to easily get the drop on your enemy. Magic is amazing, the White One whispered. Those golems are also controlled by magic, right? End of part 2.